we've actually had a really good training off season. Well, I say off season, we've been in season since January, but our 20-hour training's gone really, really well. Very little missed time. We've been able to really get a lot of good water time because the weather's been really nice for us this semester. We've had 2 people go on the record board, so that's a huge get. I'm not sure that we've had 2 people go on our 2K record board in the same year. So that's a pretty good sign training's working and speed's really developing. Well, on a typical year, it'd be really a chance to get water time while our ice is frozen. This year's been a little atypical in that the lake never really froze. So we were able to get right back out after being down in Alabama the next week. But it's a chance to get away from everything and really just focus on rowing and not have the school or any of the other distractions you have at home. Obviously, priorities-wise, school, family are above rowing, but for a week, it's nice to have that kind of locked in, not have to have anything hanging over your head school-wise, or I have to be up for this project or this group project and people aren't helping on. It all lets you just kind of focus on getting better rather than having those other distractions pop in. It was nice because we could kind of phase in our on the water sessions rather than just going like till kind of the second or third week of March and trying to erg out of spring training. We could kind of work on our technical and our steady state on the water and do some of the harder work on the erg where we still need kind of that individual look. So it actually allowed us to kind of phase in the water time versus like, oh, well, the water's finally thawed on this day. Docks in, boats are in, we got to go rowing tomorrow no matter what's going on. So it's allowed us to be a little more patient with some of our training and a little bit more diligent in some of our harder work, being able to get on the erg and seeing the number right in front of you, and then transitioning the last couple of weeks to just on the water and just really trying to push that same feeling we have at the hard stuff on the erg into the water time. So we have obviously our 1V, 2V, and 4. They're always going to basically be a racing because they're going to be that's the NCAA quality boats. And then a third 8, which is we race at CAAs, so they'll also be racing this weekend. Our third 8 is actually our novice 8. We wanted to give them one race together, so we put them together in the novice 8. A few of them are going to probably be going to the 2V and 4 in the next couple weeks. Looking at it, the 4 and the 2V, I believe, both have 22 boats in their race. So they're going to have to really do a lot of work in that first, the heat, to make sure they get into the semis. Probably the hardest race of the weekend is going to be the semis, but the heat, I believe 2 boats out of every one of those heats is getting eliminated. So we need to make sure that we are in that top 3. We're not trying to figure out who had the best time, that we just go ahead and establish ourselves as getting into the semi. The 1V is even deeper. The 1V's got 27 boats in it. So number one, it's great to have that much competition. We haven't had a race this big in, I think, since COVID. So getting in heats, semis, and finals, and we've got to make sure we're at our top of our game for each of those 3 races. Everything's nicely spaced. I think 10 a.m. for the 1V, 2V, or 10:30, and then 5 in the afternoon for their semis, and then the next morning, I believe it's at 10 a.m. again for the finals. So that's all going to be a good racing experience. And that third 8, sadly, they don't have a heat and final. They only have a final on Sunday, but we'll figure out something for them to get some training in on Saturday. Well, number one, we're going to see a lot of the competition. We're going to think 4 of the CAA teams will be there. So that's going to be number one good. We need to see our CAA competition. It's also Patriot League. It has, I think, arguably the 3 of the 4 best lightweight programs in the country. They're all going to be in the contention for IRAs. Couple A10 schools as well. So it's going to be a pretty deep field, particularly kind of in that, we're in Region 2. It's a lot of people from Region 2. It's also a lot of people from, I would say, the mid-major level are where we're really rowing at. So I think it gives us a really good chance to get a good look at where we're going to stack up, get some good cross racing with some people, be able to compare some times and see where we fall against Drexel and Northeastern, who've been kind of dominating the conference. And Delaware finished third last year. Will be there. Villanova, UConn, Monmouth. So we'll get to see 4 out of 8. The only people we won't get to see this year, I believe, are before CAAs are Drexel, Northeastern, and UC San Diego. But I think we'll have a good chance to compare some race results with them. Right now, it looks like Saturday is going to be a little windy, tailwind, so race times are going to be fast. We actually did some work this morning, unloading our oars a little bit during our steady state, trying to work on that impulse to try and be prepared for a much faster race course than what we see at home on most days. Then Sunday is temperature's supposed to go about 10 degrees, and wind's supposed to drop 5 to 10 miles an hour. So Sunday should be really, really nice for the finals. We just have to make sure we progress into the finals. We want to get there. I think it's good. The Cooper River doesn't have a lot of warm-up space, so we take ergs with us so that we can get a better warm-up off the water before we hit the water. And I think that practicing to warm up on a run, an erg warm-up, water warm-up, then your race is a huge thing going into CAAs, because we're going to have to do the same thing there, just lack of warm-up space. So as we progress, it's really kind of getting some of the bugs out of the system to make sure our timing's right for when people need to be at each place each time, that we have enough gaps on the ergs so that the 1V, 2V, and 4 and 3V can all get their erg time before our warm-up. And even then, do we need to bring maybe more ergs next time? Like, we've been able to get away with 8, but maybe we need to bring 12 to make sure everybody has full coverage to get the full warm-up we're looking for. So kind of a little bit of a trial basis that we don't have necessarily here or at George Mason. We have a lot more space to warm up in, so you don't have to kind of do the erg part. I mean, to be honest, we really got to make a statement our first race. I have a feeling we're going to probably be seated pretty low based on our results from last year, and we got to go out and make a statement off number 1 and show that all the speed we've built is there, and make sure everyone knows where we're at. Well, it's been 10 years of work. Actually, it's 10 plus years. This has been an idea since before I was the head coach, but I think we really started to see a lot of progress and get in the right rooms. Obviously, COVID put a pretty big damper on it. I felt like we were really close, about to start spending some money, and then we had a hard break thrown on when everything shut down. But now it looks like the course is going to get installed in the next 2 weeks. So for our first home race, for home race this year, we'll be the first one on our course, and then looking to expand out of that. Having a fully buoyed 8-lane course that we can expand eventually into 12 if the demand arises for it, that's owned by a university is unique. Maybe there's 2 in the country that are owned by universities and have the backing of sports information like you guys, our facility staff, marketing staff that is employed by the university, as well as all the access to student help that isn't necessarily available for every course in the country. And I think it puts us in a really good spot to have a great venue and offer something special to the rowing community that isn't currently available except in 1 or 2 other spots.